The sun was unforgiving that day, pouring heat onto a cracked Missouri road that led to a gas station most people didn't stop at unless they had to. It was the kind of place where the paint peeled off the signs, and the air smelled faintly of diesel and something burnt. The pumps looked older than the building itself, and the vending machine leaned slightly, as if it had given up on balance. Camilla Brooks pulled her black SUV into the lot with quiet ease. She stepped out in jeans and a gray jacket, sunglasses shielding her eyes, and a calmness that came from years of knowing who she was. No one watching would guess this woman was anything more than a traveler passing through. She unscrewed the gas cap and began fueling, her mind already focused on getting home, maybe catching the last bit of sunset from her porch. There was nothing remarkable about the moment until tires crunched over gravel behind her. A Benton County Sheriff's cruiser rolled in slow, its presence almost theatrical. She didn't flinch. She didn't need to. That sound, gravel under bad intentions, was something she'd heard before. The door of the cruiser swung open, and out stepped a white deputy, heavy-set, buzz-cut, boots covered in dried mud. His eyes scanned the lot like he owned it. Then they landed on her. "You lost, ma'am?" His voice carried arrogance, not concern. Camilla turned calmly, keeping her hands in plain sight. "Just getting gas." He didn't smile. He didn't nod. He walked closer, looking her up and down like she didn't belong there. "Let me see your ID." She kept her face neutral. "Is there a reason, deputy? You're driving an out-of-state SUV. This station doesn't get a lot of traffic like you." The pause after "you" said more than the words did. Camilla reached into her jacket slowly and handed over her license, just her license. He snatched it. "Camilla Brooks," he read out loud, like it was a warning. "What are you really doing in Benton?" The words hit her like they always did when someone didn't ask questions. They assumed. Still, her voice stayed level. "I told you, just getting gas." That was the line, the invisible one, and he stepped right over it. "You've got an attitude, Miss Brooks. I don't like that." Without warning, he shoved her. Hard. His hand slammed into her right shoulder, knocking her against the SUV. She caught herself before falling, her voice rising only slightly. "That is not necessary." But he wasn't done. He opened her passenger door without permission and began rifling through her glove box like it belonged to him. Receipts, sunglasses, even a granola bar tossed aside like trash. "My registration's in the top folder," she said quietly, trying to de-escalate. He grabbed it, crumpled it in one fist, and turned on her with something colder in his eyes. And then it happened. He raised one heavy boot and kicked her, hard in the shin. The sound echoed across the empty lot. Camilla dropped to one knee, the gravel biting through her jeans. Her face didn't change, but her legs screamed. "That's where you belong," he muttered. "Stay down." He walked away, like nothing had happened, like she wasn't a woman, wasn't a human, just a stop on his daily route of dominance. But he wasn't alone. Across the lot, a teenage boy had frozen mid-step. His phone was angled just enough to catch the scene. Not a planned recording, just instinct. The clip was shaky, but clear. Camilla didn't move right away. She pushed herself up slowly, hand pressing against the SUV for balance. Her leg throbbed. Her hands shook, just a little. She looked at the boy. Their eyes met for half a second. He knew, and now he had proof. She bent down to pick up her license, dusted it off with one slow motion. Her phone buzzed in her jacket. She answered it with the same calm the deputy had tried to kick out of her. "This is Brooks." The voice on the other end was sharp. "Cam, we just picked up a civilian recording. Benton County, was that you?" Her answer was cold steel, wrapped in velvet. "Yes, deputy assaulted me. I want his full file. Disciplinary records, complaint logs, everything. Now." There was a pause. "On it." She hung up. Then she looked back toward the road. The deputy was already gone, dust rising behind his cruiser. But he had no idea what he'd just done. Because he didn't kick just any black woman. He kicked the FBI chief. And now, karma was just 3 minutes behind him. The road leading into Missouri that morning had been long and unremarkable, winding past fields of corn and small towns that barely registered on a GPS. Camilla Brooks had driven most of it in silence, her playlist untouched, the hum of tires on asphalt her only soundtrack. She liked the quiet. It gave her room to think, to breathe. She had just wrapped up a high-stakes briefing in Kansas City and was heading home. Not as an officer, not as a strategist, just as herself. She wore no badge, no uniform, just jeans, a fitted black shirt, and a gray utility jacket. Her sunglasses kept the sun out of her eyes and the world from reading her too closely. A black woman in her early 50s with sharp features and calm, confident steps. To the outside world, she was invisible, but only because she wanted to be. Camilla didn't move like someone afraid. She moved like someone who'd seen enough to be cautious, but never enough to be stopped. Her calm wasn't just personality, it was armor. Built over decades in law enforcement, most of it spent not in the field, but behind the curtain where the real power lived. She was the chief of the FBI's Midwestern Division, a title she never used unless she had to. And even then, it wasn't something she threw around. Power was more effective when it wasn't advertised. That's what most people didn't understand, especially men like Deputy Kyle Riker. He hadn't seen her. Not really. He saw a black woman in a black SUV and assumed everything he needed to know. The way he spoke, the way he stared. It was the same pattern, repeated in county after county, racism wrapped in uniform and justified by authority. Camilla had studied this for years, not just experienced it, analyzed it. She'd worked on internal reviews, buried corruption probes, and advised on policy that rarely made it to the news. She knew how these systems operated, how they were protected, how complaints vanished, how officers like Riker got promoted instead of punished. But nothing in her files, no amount of tactical knowledge or briefings, could prepare her for the moment when it turned personal. That kick wasn't just an assault, it was a message, one she had received her entire life in different forms. You don't belong here. Stay down. Be silent. Only this time it wasn't a whisper or a policy decision behind a desk. It was a boot to her shin and gravel under her palms. Blood soaked through the torn fabric of her jeans as she stood up, slowly, deliberately, eyes locked on the teenager filming. She didn't have to say anything. Her silence was louder than a scream. This wasn't about pain. It was about principle. And Camilla Brooks didn't let principles slide. She had let the badge stay hidden because she wanted to see how far he would go. That's the part they always missed. Guys like Riker. They assumed no one important would look like her. They expected power to come in suits, pale skin, and authority they recognized. They never imagined the woman they kicked would be the one writing their final report. Inside the SUV, her phone lit up again. This time it was Marcus, Deputy Director of Intelligence Coordination. You good? His voice was tight, clipped. He kicked me, she said plainly. It's all on video. A pause. I'll pull his history. Start digging now. Camilla didn't say thank you. She didn't have to. Outside, the sun had shifted. The breeze carried the scent of gasoline and dust. The lot was quiet again, but something had changed. Not visibly, but beneath the surface. Camilla got back in the driver's seat, carefully adjusting her bruised knee. The ache reminded her of every sacrifice she had made to sit where she sat. Every room she had to fight to enter. Every assumption she had to shatter. And now she had a choice. Let it slide like so many others had. Or let this be the last time someone like Kyle Riker got to kick without consequence. She reached for her phone, opened a secure channel, and began recording a memo. Incident report, Benton County, Missouri. Officer involved, Deputy Kyle Riker. Suspected pattern of abuse. Video evidence pending. She hit save. The first line in a file that would bury more than just a cop. It would bury the entire system that kept him standing. The video went live less than 30 minutes after it happened. It started with a shaky hand, poor lighting, and a teenage boy who didn't plan to be part of history. He just knew what he saw wasn't right. He uploaded it to TikTok first. No caption, no filter, just raw footage of a uniformed white officer kicking a black woman at a gas station. Within an hour, it had over 300,000 views. The hashtags rolled in fast. Justice, now gas station assault, black woman kicked FBI chief uncovered. But no one knew who she was, yet. Camilla sat behind the wheel of her SUV, watching the numbers spike from a burner phone she kept for field incidents. She didn't flinch. She didn't panic. She let the machine run while she quietly put hers into motion. The internet would do its job, fuel outrage. But Camilla's job was to build a case. Inside the FBI's secure messaging system, she sent a high-priority alert with the title, Flagged Use of Force Incident Missouri. She attached the coordinates, the timestamp, and the phone number of the teenager who filmed it. She didn't send her badge ID yet. She wanted this investigation to be clean. No favoritism, no shortcuts. Just the truth, like any other civilian would have deserved. But she wasn't any other civilian, and the system was already moving. In Washington, a senior analyst triggered a geofence review after the video passed 1 million views. AI facial recognition flagged Camilla's profile, but the flag was set to sensitive clearance, manual hold. Only a handful of people in the country could override that block. Marcus was one of them. He called her again. It's going viral. I know. Do we let it run? Camilla stared at the dusty road ahead. Let it burn, but quietly pull Riker's record. I want to see every complaint, every IA dismissal, every lost body cam file. I'm on it. By nightfall, the video had crossed 1.2 million views. Now it was on Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit. Someone slowed the footage down frame by frame. The moment his boot connected, the way she fell, the badge on his chest, the complete lack of humanity in his eyes. News outlets began calling the sheriff's department. Benton County declined to comment. That silence only made it worse. Within hours, reporters were parked outside the station. Someone posted a screenshot of Riker's Facebook profile. A second video surfaced, him yelling at a young black man during a traffic stop last year. No charges had ever been filed. It wasn't just a clip anymore. It was a pattern. And Camilla knew patterns better than anyone. She'd built entire task forces around them. Child exploitation rings, corruption inside Border Patrol, misuse of power in small-town precincts. This wasn't new. What was new was that she was in it, firsthand, not from a folder or briefing. This was her face on that video, her blood on the gravel. She leaned back in the seat, closed her eyes for a second, then reopened them with laser focus. Her next step wasn't personal. It was strategic. She logged into a secure FBI field portal and began compiling a case file under a generic name. She labeled it C-42 Gas Station Assault, a placeholder. Nothing flashy. She uploaded the video, her ID, and a personal witness statement. Then she added a note. Do not notify local enforcement until internal chain is verified. Civil rights risk, possible internal obstruction. That note would trigger two things. An internal review of the sheriff's office. A flag for federal intervention if local officials interfered. She wasn't leaving this to chance. Outrage would create pressure. But pressure without precision was just noise. Camilla didn't do noise. The teen who posted the video finally DM'd her. Just one message. Are you okay? She responded, yes, thank you for filming. Keep your phone safe. You did the right thing. He replied with a crying emoji and a fist bump. Then he wrote, they're scared now. I can see it in their eyes. She smiled, not from joy, but from certainty. Let them be scared. The video was doing exactly what it needed to. And it wasn't done yet. The file came in at 3:17 a.m. Camilla was still awake, sitting on the edge of her motel bed, knee wrapped in ice, laptop open in front of her. Marcus had pulled everything, deputy evaluations, internal affairs reports, redacted complaint logs, but what he sent next made her sit up straighter. Deputy Kyle Riker had 4 prior use of force complaints. 3 involved young black men under the age of 25. The 4th was a Latina nurse he'd pulled over for a broken taillight, tried to arrest her when she asked for a supervisor. All dismissed. Each file closed by the same person, Sheriff Linda Calkins. Camilla didn't need a map to see it. This wasn't about one rogue cop. This was about a department where racism wasn't just tolerated. It was protected. She dug deeper. Calkins had been sheriff for over a decade. Former state trooper, elected 3 terms, unopposed. Most campaign donations came from local real estate developers, private security firms, and one name that stuck out, Grayson, Senator Everett Grayson. She'd heard of him, retired cop turned politician, always waving the back the blue flag loud enough to drown out any criticism. The deeper she looked, the more obvious it became. This wasn't just about bad officers. This was a network. A network that backed men like Riker, cleaned up after their violence, and erased any trace of misconduct from public records. She started a new folder. Pattern of misconduct, Benton County. She opened a second tab, cross-referenced every excessive force complaint filed in the past 5 years. Most had been unsubstantiated, a handful mysteriously withdrawn within days of being submitted. Body cam footage? Missing. Internal memos? Redacted or lost in transfer. One entry caught her attention. A whistleblower's note, submitted anonymously 2 years ago, claimed Riker had used racial slurs during a traffic stop and physically intimidated the driver. It had been marked inconclusive and filed away without any follow-up. Camilla didn't just feel anger. She felt purpose. This wasn't unfamiliar ground. She'd investigated dirty precincts before. But this time, she wasn't coming in as an outside observer. This time, the system had kicked her down like it had done to so many others before her. She wasn't just going to expose it. She was going to dismantle it. The next morning, she called Marcus. I need every name tied to this sheriff's office. Officers, donors, county clerks, judges. Anyone who ever signed off on a complaint involving Riker. He paused. You planning a case? I'm building a wall they can't climb over. Marcus exhaled. You're serious. I was kicked down in daylight. On camera. In uniform or not, I'm still a federal officer. And now I'm a witness too. By noon, she had her first full map. It wasn't perfect, but the links were clear. Sheriff Calkins oversaw a department full of unchecked power. Internal affairs was rubber-stamping dismissals. Local prosecutors weren't filing charges. Judges were tossing civil suits on technicalities. It was rotten from the inside out. And the worst part? No one had been paying attention because the victims were always black or brown or poor or quiet. Not today. Camilla opened a secure bureau case log and entered a line that would change everything. Recommended, civil rights violation investigation, Benton County Sheriff's Office. A red flag alert triggered instantly, pinging across the DOJ and Civil Rights Division. She knew what would happen next. The sheriff would panic. Riker would lawyer up. Someone would leak a statement blaming outside interference and misunderstood actions. They'd try to discredit her, maybe even bury her. But they had no idea who they were dealing with. She wasn't just a paper pusher. She wasn't just a federal title. She was someone who had watched entire criminal empires fall because of one detail no one thought she'd catch. And right now, she had a dozen details, and a video watched by millions. She closed her laptop and stood, wincing slightly as her bruised knee reminded her it wasn't over. Outside, protest signs were already appearing along the highway exit. Inside, the real work had just begun. The sheriff's office had been protected for too long. Camilla wasn't just about to break the silence. She was going to break the system. The motel lights flickered just past 10 p.m. Camilla was on a secure line with a DOJ contact, walking them through her findings. Patterns, names, red flags. But halfway through the call, something shifted. The electricity dipped for a second, then returned. Too quiet, too intentional. She moved toward the window, cautious. Years of field experience had taught her to recognize when a situation wasn't coincidence. Then she saw it. Her SUV, parked just beneath the flickering light pole, was on fire. Flames burst through the hood, licking the windshield, eating through the engine like paper soaked in gasoline. She dropped the phone and ran barefoot into the parking lot. Heat radiated in waves. Glass cracked. Smoke curled into the air, thick and choking. The motel guests scrambled, shouting, grabbing phones. But Camilla wasn't watching the flames. She was watching the scrap of cardboard wedged under the wiper of a nearby parked car. 3 words, thick in black marker. Stay in your lane. This wasn't random. This was a message. The kind cowards send when they know they are losing control. Marcus arrived 5 minutes later, tires screeching as he jumped out of his car with a fire extinguisher. He didn't need to ask what happened. He just sprayed until the flames hissed and died. Then he turned to her, chest heaving, sweat pouring from his forehead, his eyes locked on hers. They're scared. Camilla nodded once, no emotion in her face. Good. The next morning, she filed a federal intimidation complaint. She didn't just name the threat, she named the pattern. Her full report was clear. Systemic obstruction, harassment, destruction of evidence, and retaliation against a federal officer. But they weren't done. By noon, she received an encrypted notice from FBI internal channels. Subject line: Notice of temporary suspension pending review. No badge, no authority, no access. Effective immediately. They pulled her. No hearing, no questions. Just a digital notice designed to silence her without a single word. She stared at the message for 10 seconds, then closed the laptop. No panic, no breakdown. Just silence. Then a whisper. Time to go loud. Camilla called Marcus. Leak it all. You sure? Body cam, internal memos, timeline. News already has the viral video. Let's give them the full picture. He didn't hesitate. That night, the journalist they trusted most dropped the full story. No anonymous sources, no censored files, just receipts. Camilla's words, the assault footage, the body cam audio, and a name, Sheriff Linda Calkins. By midnight, Twitter was ablaze. National anchors were running back-to-back segments. Hashtags exploded. #justice, for Camilla, #Benton cover-up, #FBIV's corruption. But more than that, people were furious. This wasn't just about one deputy anymore. This was about a department that tried to erase a woman who stood in their way and failed. She didn't need her badge to speak. She didn't need clearance to fight. She just needed the truth. And now the whole country had it. By the time Camilla stepped onto the courthouse steps the next morning, the video had already crossed 10 million views. News vans lined the street. Reporters crowded behind barricades. Protesters stood shoulder to shoulder holding signs that read, "Justice for Camilla," "Expose Benton County," and "No more silence." She didn't come with security, no lawyers, no entourage. She walked alone, tall, steady, even as her knee throbbed with every step under her slacks. But this time she wore her badge, clipped to her belt, not for protection, for the message. She wasn't hiding anymore. As she reached the podium, the noise faded. Cameras zoomed in, microphones leaned forward like spears. Her voice didn't shake. It didn't rise. My name is Camilla Brooks. I am the FBI chief for the Midwestern Division. I've served this country for 26 years. I've taken down cartels, exposed corruption, and stood in courtrooms where justice was ignored. A pause. Yesterday, I was assaulted in broad daylight by a uniformed officer who didn't care who I was, only what I looked like. The crowd murmured. I didn't tell him who I was because I needed to see how far he'd go, and he went all the way. He shoved me, he kicked me, and he walked away like it was nothing. Her tone sharpened, but never cracked. I'm not standing here just because of one man. I'm standing here because of the system that trained him, empowered him, and covered for him. She reached into her jacket, pulled out a file. This morning, I submitted a formal complaint to the Department of Justice. Attached is a pattern of civil rights violations committed by the Benton County Sheriff's Office. This includes body cam footage, erased complaints, and internal memos. Cameras flashed. And I have also initiated a federal probe into the leadership of Sheriff Linda Calkins. Gasps rolled through the crowd. She protected him. She protected others like him. And she profited while doing it. Reporters erupted with questions. Camilla didn't answer. She stepped down, walked through the crowd like she didn't feel the weight of millions watching. Marcus met her at the SUV, handed her a bottle of water. "That was one hell of a speech," she let out a breath. "Now they know." He nodded. "Yeah, and so does Calkins." She didn't reply. She didn't need to. That afternoon, arrests began. Deputy Kyle Riker was taken into custody outside his home. He tried to bluster, claim politics, bias, lies, but the federal agents didn't flinch. They had the video, they had the files, and they had the orders. 1 hour later, Sheriff Calkins was pulled from her house, still in her robe, no press, no lights, just a quiet knock and a pair of cold steel cuffs. Her husband stood frozen on the porch as she was led to the car. No words, just reality. Back at the courthouse, indictment papers were being filed. Oh, conspiracy to obstruct justice, destruction of evidence, civil rights violations under color of law. And this was just the start. As the news broke across every network, Camilla sat in a quiet corner of the federal building, scrolling through notifications. Senators releasing statements. Civil rights attorneys calling for full DOJ oversight. Old colleagues messaging. "Is that really you?" It was. And now the world knew it too. A reporter shouted through the building's front doors, "Chief Brooks, is this the end?" She didn't answer, because it wasn't. Not even close. That kick had started a storm. And Camilla Brooks? She was just getting started. Camilla didn't celebrate. No champagne, no victory speech, no press interview. She spent the night at a quiet motel on the edge of the county line. Same dusty walls, same flickering bulb. But this time, no fear, no hesitation. She had taken her shot and landed it. But she also knew the truth. When systems crack, they don't just fall, they fight. And that fight had already begun. 2 nights later, she returned to her room after a DOJ strategy call and found the door kicked open, drawers emptied, mattress slashed, her laptop smashed to pieces, her bag gutted. One photo was left behind, an old one of her and her nephew, shredded in half, left on the bed. This wasn't a threat. It was a warning. She called Marcus. Her voice didn't shake. "They're trying to erase me." "They won't." "No," she said, "because I'm going to erase them first." She moved again, quietly. Rented a cabin tucked behind a bait shop near the Gulf. Only Marcus knew the location. She turned off tracking, wiped devices, changed burner phones. But she never stopped building. Each night she mapped names, connections, donations, emails, each brick laid in silence. Until one thread revealed the man behind the curtain, Senator Everett Grayson. Not just a supporter, not just a donor, the architect. He sat on the State Oversight Committee, the very committee responsible for reviewing misconduct complaints against sheriffs. He signed the budget that funded the department. He personally pushed for Riker's promotion. Camilla stared at the digital paper trail. He wasn't supporting the system. He was the system. She didn't hesitate. She called Denise, the federal prosecutor she trusted most. "We got our top. You ready to pull the roof down?" "More than ready." Together, they filed a sealed affidavit requesting a federal audit of all law enforcement funding tied to Grayson. But Camilla knew that wouldn't be enough. Not when the corruption had roots this deep. So she called in one last favor, from a journalist who didn't scare easy. The article dropped within 48 hours. State senator linked to sheriff cover-up, FBI sources confirm investigation. The story detonated. News anchors ran segments with side-by-side shots of Riker kicking Camilla and Grayson, shaking hands with Calkins at a fundraiser. Grayson canceled all public events. The sheriff's office deleted their Facebook page. But Camilla wasn't done. A whistleblower from inside Grayson's team handed over a phone transcript. Grayson's voice, low and clear. "Tighten the leaks and take care of the FBI problem before the next cycle." That recording changed everything. Now it wasn't just corruption. It was conspiracy. Camilla gave the audio to Denise. Within 12 hours, a federal criminal referral was filed. That night, Marcus handed her the arrest affidavit in a plain folder. "This puts him on the hook," She read it slowly. Not like she was reading words, like she was lifting weight. "We're not done," she said. "Grayson's the top of the chain, but he didn't build it alone." Then another message arrived. A flash drive. No return address. On it, surveillance footage of Riker, Calkins, and Grayson meeting in a storage unit. No uniforms, just raw strategy, talking about optics, suppression, media manipulation. It wasn't about safety. It was about staying in control. Camilla didn't flinch. She leaked the video. The internet did what the internet does. The story became global. The governor issued emergency hearings. DOJ sent full teams. Grayson vanished from public view. But Camilla? She got her badge back. The Bureau lifted her suspension, publicly praised her courage. She didn't smile. She didn't slow down. She submitted her resignation 2 days later, not in defeat but in freedom, because she didn't need a title to finish what she started. Her final report, published through an independent watchdog, laid out the full chain: corruption, cover-ups, coordinated retaliation. It became required reading in several law schools. A year later, she returned to that same gas station. New pumps, fresh gravel, a small bronze plaque near the corner. It read, "Here stood a woman. She didn't fall." Camilla stood there for a long time. No camera, no crowd, just her. She turned, got back in her SUV and drove, not away from the fire, but toward whatever came next. Because truth doesn't retire, and neither would she.